Welcome to Insights for Business Owners. And on this episode, we have Nicole Lev Ross, who's the founder and managing director of Literal North. Nicole, great to have you on the podcast.
Why, thanks, David. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So fill us in on what you're doing over there at Literal North.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
Literal North is a Chicago-based consultancy where we are curious and we love to give the customers and the market a seat in the boardroom because very often leadership, board of directors, they're making all these decisions
Yeah.
without having the insight from the market.
Wow.
So
I
in a
saw
nut-
that and I was like,
yeah.
that is so interesting. And so do you literally put a customer on a board? I mean, is it literally like you're
Ah,
adding? Oh, no. So what,
don't
like,
be
hang
fooled.
on. What do you do?
Don't be
What do you do?
fooled by literal. So we
Okay.
are basically talking to the market, whether the project is the final stage of an acquisition and an
Mm,
investment committee, right, is deciding yay or nay. Think
mm,
quality of earnings are checking out,
mm-hmm.
financials look good, but what
Yeah.
about, as we like to say, quality of customer? So we take that
Right.
transaction from Q of E, quality of
Yeah.
earnings, to Q of C, quality of customer.
Amazing. And this is a totally new concept to me. And it's funny because we do about 50 M&A deals a year, but smaller, lower market, sub $10 million. And I have never heard of QFC, quality of customer. So tell me what it is, because this sounds really important. And I can't believe I've missed this this far, all along.
Well, it's interesting because I started my career in business valuation. I used to call it
Oh,
investment
wow.
banking light. And
Yeah.
as an appraiser, you can't influence the 5-year projection of a client. So for my clients who only had 1 year projections, if at all, I had
Yeah.
to help them build their forecast. But
Wow.
I didn't have a budget to go talk to the market to find out, who their competitors were,
Mm,
what are the growth prospects? We just looked at larger scale macroeconomic data. Then
mm-hmm.
again, after a number of years, I worked in investment banking, and
Hmm.
similarly, I was tasked with building out the models and the
Right.
information memorandum, and needed more field level research. At that time, you
Mm,
didn't have expert networks; we had to find the experts. But
mm,
again, we were constrained by budget, had to get the sim out to
yeah.
prospective investors,
Right.
and then in between my investment banking and we'll just say a corporate development role where I was doing mergers and acquisitions,
Yep.
I did what's called a voice of the customer study with a former
Wow.
Booz consultant. And so I
Cool.
learned the MBB approach to reaching out to the market. They were customers, they were channel partners, which is
Mm,
distributors or sales rep agents,
yep.
and
Yeah.
then also, competitors, to find
Wow.
out how that target acquisition is doing, how it's perceived by the customers, what are the risks, but more importantly, what are the opportunities once that
Mm,
private equity firm or strategic acquires subject company, what are they going to do
yeah.
with it? So
Wow.
then I actually was in corporate development and mergers and acquisitions
Yeah.
and found myself in the same position. So I had to hire experts if we were looking
Mm,
into a segment that was unfamiliar to management.
hmm. I'm blown away by this. This is really cool, and I am embarrassed to say I've just never heard of it. I think it's really amazing. So how do you do? You said you get the voice of the customer. It's a study, a report. How do you
It
determine
is.
that?
Well,
Yeah.
it's scary for that seller. The seller is like, well, you can't talk to my customers. But
Right. No, I get it. Yeah.
what it's
Yeah.
pitched as is actually a feedback study. So we work together with the seller, reduce their fear, and
Hmm.
they can review all the questions that we're going to ask their customers, and we pitch it as a feedback study. So that
Mm.
customers are not alerted that there's a transaction in play. They are, you'd be surprised. Customers, one, are pleasantly surprised
Mm.
that a vendor wants to hear their opinion or their
Yeah.
feedback uh,
Yeah.
on how they're doing, and they will tell
Hmm.
you. And more often than not, they're nice.
Yeah.
They want to support the salesperson who is
Nice.
selling the product to them. And if
Hmm.
they can contribute to an industry that, in many cases, they have spent their entire lives in a single industry, they
Right.
can actually provide feedback and suggestions on ways to innovate.
So that's great. I think it's really great. And sometimes you find yourself proactively, like when a seller is thinking about selling, going and doing a proactive like
Mhm.
customer survey to kind of prep this, or are they not that forward thinking yet? Or
Well, as you know, many sellers are they're scared to sell their company.
yeah.
They might spend some money on a quality of earnings,
Hmm.
and if they were really smart, they would conduct a voice of the customer 3 years before they want to sell. Find out
That long,
where
three
you
years.
can just get greater share of wallet among your existing customers, so that
Mm.
you get a greater multiple. You get the multiple of
Yeah.
a higher profit
Yeah.
margin. And that
Mm.
is an area where, as I network with wealth
Mhm.
managers, with advisors,
Mhm.
is to encourage that client to
Yeah.
talk to their customers, talk to 30 customers.
Wow.
27 is statistically significant. You can represent a
Really?
population with a sample size of 27. So if all of these sellers
Really?
would just talk to 27 to 30 customers,
That's it.
3 years from, 3 years
Yeah.
later, without doubt, they will increase their profit.
Wow. So you need 27 responses to have a statistically significant data set,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, and in general.
Um,
Now, if you're talking about, 5 in Europe and 5 in, California and a few others in Florida, there, different geographies have different characteristics.
right.
But
Yep.
on average, yes, 27 is magic.
And what's a good sort of deal size for you to work on and make sense, I guess? What's
Sure.
your sort of targets? Yeah.
We've worked with multi-billion-dollar companies from
Wow.
Microsoft Azure to 3M,
Wow.
to large holding companies that are based offshore and have multiple um, uh, divisions here in the US.
Hmm. Yeah.
But on average, the companies are 50 million in revenue to
Mhm.
500 million in revenue.
Wow. Okay.
However,
Yeah.
um, 2 years ago, I worked with, it was a family office owned platform company. They were generating 10 million in revenue.
Yeah.
And the ownership, they recognized that they were falling behind their major competitor. So
Mm.
they spent the dollars required. It
Yeah.
was not just a voice of the customer, but it was a full market segmentation and brand exercise, which
Mm.
Literal North doesn't do, but we work with partners. We work with
I
brand
see.
strategists, and we'll provide that field level language, the messaging
Hmm.
that comes
Yeah.
from the market.
Do you also just work with companies that maybe aren't looking to exit, but just looking to grow, and help them?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
let's going back to giving the
Yeah.
customer a seat in the boardroom. Jeff
Hmm.
Bezos, he actually had an empty seat at every board meeting, and that was for the customer. That was to keep the
Wow.
customer, yeah, in
That's
mind.
that's really cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
So, as part of, and I was in corporate development leading the strategic planning efforts, and I would have
Mm.
a call with the head of sales, and I'd only get
Mhm.
his perspective. So
Mhm.
I said, "Hey, can I just talk to each of the salespeople at minimum and hear what their thoughts are?" Because
Mhm.
a salesperson is more transactional; they're not able to make a difference in other functional areas.
Right.
Operations, accounting and finance, invoicing, delivery, logistics. A voice of the customer, voice of the market touches all functional areas, and so
Hmm.
it really is an essential part of any strategic plan.
That's interesting. So you don't just talk about like sales with the customer. You talk about how's our marketing, how is our brand, how is our customer service. Like it's.
Right, and more often than not, we're saying, "How are you? What keeps you up at night? What things are you worrying about just in your day to day job?" And
Mhm.
then you know what do you see in the market? How are we we'd have rankings and ratings and many open-ended questions
Mhm.
without leading that customer, but
Mhm.
they will they'll tell us the process that they currently, maybe their buying process with vendor, but the buying process with other folks that might be doing a better job, and those
Hmm.
other folks could even be non-competitors outside of our
Hmm.
industry.
Well, I tell you, it'd be interesting to hear how you like get clients to deal with this. I know I should do surveys for my businesses. I'm afraid. I'll be honest. I'm afraid. I
Most
don't.
people are.
want the feedback. Like, I don't want negative feedback. I'm like very fragile, right? And
Yeah.
like, I'm I'm not totally ready for it, but I know like intuitively I'll learn. I'll probably get some new business ideas, some product ideas. How do you help people overcome the fear? Because I think that's probably a big challenge, you
It
know?
is a big challenge.
Yeah.
I think maybe we're all wired to think that the negative first, but very often you probably, if somebody asked you how they're doing, you probably would give them the positive feedback.
Mm,
And that is exactly what a customer does. They don't want to get anybody fired, right?
right.
They're head salesperson, but so they're diplomatic.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
if you're curious, a
Hmm.
good leader is a curious leader.
Yeah.
So putting our own egos aside, let's just be curious about what
Hmm.
how our client experienced us. And you're going to
Mm,
find out the things you did great and then the things that you can improve on. We want
hmm.
to encourage our clients at Literal North to do more of the great things.
Hmm. Wow, I
Mhm.
like that's a great answer. I'm writing this down to be a curious leader because that
Curious.
is true, and setting the ego aside. And then a part of it too is, and I hear we're kind of, going over to therapy here, but it's probably a little bit of therapy like what you're doing, you know,
It really is
setting
therapy.
security.
It's empathetic listening. One
Yeah.
client, they were they were struggling. They
Mhm.
had some leadership issues, they had some quality issues, and so we
Mhm.
pulled one of their multi-million-dollar clients. And this
Mm.
gentleman said, "In my 25 years in this industry, nobody has ever asked me how I felt."
Wow. Wow.
And so what we were able to do is reignite the relationship with ownership. And
Mm.
very often it's folks just want to hear from the president. They want to hear from the partner.
Mm.
They're talking to the
That's
salesperson.
interesting. Not
Yes,
being heard. Like they don't feel like they're getting the attention and being heard.
that's
How do
right.
you help the clients not feel defensive? Like I would feel defensive. I'd be like, well, oh, they had this critique. Well, I mean, I'm doing that right. They're wrong. Or I don't know. How do you help someone overcome that to turn it into a learning opportunity for curiosity? How do you, yeah.
Yes. Well, the good thing is we're a third party. We're the ones listening to your clients.
Ah,
So,
good point. Good point.
we're that, I guess, the buffer, if you will. Then we
Yeah.
translate what the client says and provide you not only with a roadmap or, certainly a
Hmm.
report that's thematically organized by
Wow.
topic. You could have two or
Yeah.
three questions that all touch a similar topic. So we'll pull
Mm.
that together so you have a comprehensive view. But you're going to
Mm.
see your report peppered with real quotes. So when you're reading a
Wow.
report, it's almost like you are sitting there with that customer. And we
Wow.
don't just pull the good stuff, we'll pull the bad stuff too. Uh,
Yeah.
I think more often than not, you're going to be nodding your head like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
You
we did
know.
that,
Yeah.
more than you will be defensive.
That's actually a great point. I mean, I think the things that are identified, we do know. Like, it's probably will help us focus on them. I imagine the curiosity, it also brings the focus, right? To like,
On that,
yeah,
that's right. It
yeah,
brings the focus so
yeah,
that if there are dollars to be spent, that and
right,
you're going to your investment committee as a PE firm or a
yeah,
publicly traded company,
yeah,
it focuses the decision making on the resources and placing those resources where it actually makes a difference.
yeah.
Because, as an example, 50% of marketing dollars are completely misallocated, and that's
Just
comes
like
out of
burned.
McKinsey.
It feels that way. It absolutely feels that way.
But
It
what
feels,
about
yeah,
operations, dollars that you're spending on maybe improving that website? Spend an extra X amount of dollars because your customers are saying, hey, you've revised the website, but now I
yeah,
can't see my PO number and this other bit of
right,
information the old site, provide. These are real practical
yeah.
suggestions that come from the market. And I have plenty of examples for you.
That's super cool. Yeah, give me an example or two on that. Yeah.
One of my favorite examples,
Mhm.
without revealing who the client is
No,
they
of
make,
course not. Yeah.
we'll just say they make a nuts and bolts cleaning agent, uh,
Cool.
and they sell a basin. But the maintenance guy or the repairman at the plant has to stand there and agitate the basin or the
Mm.
liquid that's in the basin for like 30 minutes. He said, why don't you
Wow.
automate this? I need to do
Yeah.
other things, but I have to sit there with my foot. I will put them in all 30 of our locations and
Wow.
multiple
Yeah.
sites within the factory if you
That's
would
great.
just automate it. So there is an innovation that comes straight from the customer. They're
That's
willing
great.
to pay the premium for an automated solution.
I love it. No, and that's, I'm like, just it's resonating so much with just this how crucial this is. And I think of, that's that story where it was like these like with like spicy Cheetos or whatever. And like, did you hear that story where like a workman or whatever who worked for the snack company came up with it, and the CEO actually listened to it, and it became $1 billion product, And so I guess we could all be listening so much more. Like, it's actually crucial for business success, right? I guess is that sort of like ultimately what is behind this, is listening? Like,
It is. And
yeah,
also, it's listening as part of your new product development. So the guy came up with the spicy Cheetos.
yeah,
Great. Well, let's now do our second phase two of
mhm,
market research and find out if there are many others that feel the same way. And
right, right,
similarly, while we work with PE firms, in the final stage of an acquisition, we will also work with them a year after, or within the
oh, wow.
first 100 days. And a great
Mm,
example is a Chicago-based, very well-known private
mhm,
equity firm.
mhm,
They had already spent a couple $1 million on a new product, developing a new
mm,
product. They
mm.
weren't sure if the engineers, their customers, their influencers would spec the product because they're traditionally known for making, let's just say their product that they make is in concrete, and this one is a plastic alternative with a
Mhm.
slightly different application. They
Yeah,
didn't want to use their brand name because they're so well respected. So we conducted 50 some interviews among engineers and contractors in
wow,
construction, we'll just say construction and building space.
yeah,
And we exceeded the expectation. People took
wow,
our calls not even knowing who the client was, but we were upfront that we
yeah,
couldn't reveal who the client was, but it is a player in their space. And people respect transparency. We are as transparent as the
mhm.
client will allow us to be.
That's great. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's got to be hard too, because you are talking to all different types of people. I
Yes.
mean, you've got the direct, like you said, you're people working with concrete, and then, other type of businesses. That's got to be
Plastic
hard
pipe,
because it's very different.
architectural,
Yeah.
structural engineering services. So while
Mm.
we are certainly not the expert, and we never claim to be, we
Mm.
do, as part of our process, we have an onboarding where we do have an hour or 2 hour call with a technical expert. The
Oh, wow.
technical expert, yes, gives us the language, teaches us a little bit about the application, the service,
Cool.
multiple services. So when we revise our discussion guide, it's speaking the language of that customer, influencer, channel partner.
Wow.
So
I
that
was
builds
going to say,
credibility.
yeah, that makes sense. So you're able to tailor it to the specific customer because of that background work you do.
Everything we do is bespoke. And while, yes,
Uh,
folks are using AI, I have tried it.
yeah.
I like my questions, and I prefer to sit there modifying the questions that speak to the customer and are in the
Hmm.
language and in the tone and the voice that's appropriate for the interview. All of our callers are very well trained. We have a
Oh,
team of between 5 and 10 callers. We're
nice.
global native language speakers as well.
Wow.
And then it's
Yeah.
analysts that take all of that information and create just a beautiful presentation and I review everything.
Of course. Yeah, that's great. And then how long, I mean, because I know it's hard to keep people on the phone and stuff. How long does it
Ah,
take? You don't have to tell me the special sauce, but um, it's hard to probably keep them on for too long, right? Or
so we always pitch the interview as a 15 to 20-minute interview, but we allow
yeah,
45 minutes. And
yep, makes
more
sense.
than half of our interviews are 35 minutes or longer.
Wow. That's really
Yeah.
thorough.
And
Yeah.
the people who say they're super busy are the ones that stay on the longest. Those who say no, give us
Yeah.
more information. It's the power. We allow them to be
Yeah.
in control, but we are
Hmm.
guiding folks through, because we have a lot of questions to cover. We do guide them very
Yeah.
delicately through the discovery or discussion guide.
Makes sense. Well, it's
Mhm.
funny, it's resonating for me because when I've gotten a survey call or something, and it's something I actually really feel passionate about, they have to be like, all right, Mr. Stara, it's okay. I need to go. I'm like, no, let me give you a few more ideas. Like, you're right. You sort of get invested in it.
You do, and we are respectful of folks' time. So in
Yeah.
whether it's a project, we will sometimes say, hey, we're happy to make a donation to a charity of your choice, or sometimes we'll
Oh,
pick two
wow.
different charities if the client, the client will cover
That's a
that.
really nice idea. Wow.
It's really nice because
Yeah.
many folks cannot take payment for their time because their
Right. Makes sense.
corporate policy
Makes
prohibits
sense.
it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Well, Nicole, this has been truly educational for me. I've learned literally everything you told me is brand new to me. There is just so much benefit to what you're doing.
So much, whether you're an industrial company,
Yeah,
professional services, a law firm, even nonprofits. We do some work for nonprofits.
it's awesome.
Voice of the member. Everybody
Yeah,
deserves to have a voice in the decision
yeah,
making or influencing. That's why we call our, we say influencing corporate value one voice at a time.
nice. I love
Hmm.
it. Yeah, you've got a lot of great phrases. I love the way you kind of like, phrase all this stuff. It's really, yeah, it's really spot on. It's really unique. You've also helped me at least start to address my fears of getting
Yeah,
feedback and surveys. And, I'm closer. I'm closer, I think. I'm
good.
not quite there yet, but I'm
The
closer.
first step is just to ask why. Why do people come to us? Why do we
Mm,
like what we do?
yeah,
That's always the
that's a great
first step
point.
for a leader.
What is the best way for people to find you, Nicole?
Oh, sure. They can go to literalnorth.com. That's my
Okay.
website.
Yep.
Or
Great.
reach me at nlr@literalnorth.com. Nicole
Awesome.
works it well as well, Nicole.
Okay.
And then LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing, your ideas, your business with us. This is
Sure.
awesome. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast with us.
David, it's really been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you.